All right. So I wanted to take a few minutes to just show everyone the settings for the Tobii Eyetracker 5 that I've found to really work well for me.
Please visit again.
Just going to pop into the cockpit here and toggle it on. And basically, as you can see, while I'm flying around here, it seems to be, it's very smooth. There's not a lot of that jerkiness. And I'm not always constantly, moving back and forth between my head controlling it versus where my eyes happen to be looking, which I was having a lot of issues before. And I just wanted to show everyone the settings that I figured out for me that work, so that hopefully you can get them to work well for you. The other thing that I was having an issue with is, as I was moving forwards and backwards in my chair, my actual seated chair that I'm sitting at my desk playing the game in, I would start seeing different parts of the cockpit or parts of the space station or planet kind of appear and disappear, load in and de-render then, and you can see that I'm not having any of those issues now, no matter how much I move forward and backwards in my own seat. So let's pop into the menu here and take a look at what my settings are. The first thing that you're going to want to do is go into Keybindings and go down to Advanced Controls, Customization, and scroll down to this section right here. It says VoIP, VoIP, and Head Tracking. And this is where you're going to have your head tracking toggle key. This is basically what's going to turn on and off your eye tracker. So mine originally was set to this as a default, and then it changed, so I changed it back. I just find this to be a pretty good button to use, so whenever I use the number pad slash, it turns on and off my eye tracker, and I can show you that here in the game. So I'm looking around, up and down, and then if I hit the slash, it turns it back off. No matter what I do with my head, everything stays very centered. So let's hop back into the options menu here. We're going to go to comms, VoIP, and head tracking. And as I scroll down here, the first thing you're going to want to make sure that you have turned on is that your head tracking source is the Tobii, which is right down here at the bottom. And as I scroll down here to look at all the different settings, I'm going to go until we get to the Tobii tracking settings. So this is probably one of the first big ones that I've changed drastically compared to what the default is. So what this one is basically telling you is that the closer you get it to 1, it's going to draw more of its control from where your head moves, and the closer you put it to 0, it's going to draw its control from where your eyes are looking. So right now, if I have it all the way on 1, that means that no matter where I look with my eyes, that's not going to move the eye tracker at all. It's only going to move when I move my head. If I move it all the way to 0, then no matter where I move my head, it's not going to move my view at all, and it's only going to move my view depending on where I'm looking with my eyes. So this makes it much easier because it allows me to move my head like I would if I was actually in the pilot seat of the ship, and then keep my eyes looking around different parts in the screen without having it change where my point of view is in the game. So I found this to be a really big switch. The gaze responsiveness is basically just how sensitive it is. I find 0.4 to be a pretty good setting for that. And then center stabilization. So this is the thing that's going to keep drawing your point of view back to the center of the screen. So the higher up that I slide this slider, the more, say I'm sitting in my seat and I'm looking and I look up to the right, so my field of view moves to the right. If I just hold it there, it's going to slowly start drawing my view back to the center. And that's what this setting does. And the more to the right that I slide this, the stronger that pull is to return your field of view to the center. So it makes it, if I go all the way over here, it makes it very hard for me to look in one direction and then just keep my view looking that way. But that's what I want, because that's the more realistic way of, if you're flying something and looking out the window and you look to the right, you just continue to see to the right. And if you move this all the way over to the left here on this slider, it's just going to allow your view to stay wherever you move your head. And it mimics real life a lot more than what I found the default settings to be. The dead zones, I basically just turned all the way off, and that basically makes it so that no matter where I'm sitting or where my head is and how far I happen to look over or up or down, it's still tracking my head and making those views work a lot better. So let's go back here. I just want to show you a couple different examples. This is with it. I'm going to show you first here. If I were to slide this all the way to 0, I'm going to go back into the game. I'm moving my head a bunch now, and nothing's happening. Now if I start moving my eyes, it's moving a whole bunch. But if I move my head and keep looking straight at the center of the screen, I'm moving my head really strong back and forth and nothing's happening. If I look to the right, major shift in how I am able to see what's going on around me. So I'm going to go back in and switch that back to the setting that I like. All the way on head. And let me just show you a little bit of what the center stabilization does. So right now I have it on 0. So this is now, it's back to my head. I'm looking with my eyes now. Nothing. I start moving my head. All over the place. Exactly how I'd want it to be if I was actually flying and looking to the left out my window. So if I go back into the menu now, and I take that center stabilization and move it way up. The other thing here is this auto center. That's going to play with the center stabilization. So if I turned off my auto center as well, and that also keeps it from dragging it back. So if I go back here with center stabilization on, turn this on, it's almost impossible for me to even look. Like I'm moving things back and forth, and it's not doing anything. If I were to go put that at, say, half, it makes it very heavy. See, I'm moving my head really far left and right, and it's just making it, it's really trying to pull me back to that center and making it very hard. So this is a really good thing to, to help with if maybe you don't want the movement of your head to pull the camera too far in one direction. You might want to just have this set a little bit harder than mine. But I really like the full control. So I'm going to go ahead and put that at 0. And we're going to come back here. And it's back to how I like it. All right. A couple other things to look at. There are some additional buttons that you can use. If you'd like to just only use the head tracking when you hold a button, similar to how you talk, you can do that. I really don't find that to be a useful way to play. It doesn't really, it kind of takes you out of the immersion. So I much rather would use the toggle. And as far as, the FPS control, you can change a lot of those settings in here as well. This is the general head tracking settings. So you can have it the general toggle, so this means that I'll be able to turn it on and off using that toggle button. Auto recalibrate means that when I do turn it on and off, it's going to automatically recenter me, which makes it really helpful. So say I'm flying around here and I'm looking around and then I decide to turn it off. It's going to snap me right back to that center, and every time I turn it back on, I'll be right back in the center again. So those are just a couple of the things that I found really help me with head tracking and help me get the most out of this really cool technology. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and if there's anything that you find, please leave a comment below. Thanks again.